Welcome, everybody. This is Bart Sharp and Becoming Quantum Conscious on United Public Radio and UFO Paranormal Radio on 107.7 and 105.3, broadcasting out of the beautiful city of New Orleans, Louisiana. And also, I am in Austin, Texas, and we are also broadcasting all over the internet. You can pick us up on the UPRN website, but also on cable television, on Roku, as well as Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Spreaker, and other internet platforms. Just the easiest way, though, is to go to UPRN and just catch our show there. And today we really have a very special show with Justin James. Justin is the author of this wonderful book, Time to Speak, and it is the relationship of Yaakov, who is Jesus's brother, also known as James the Just, and Yeshua, as we will call him today instead of Jesus, because that's a more original and name of origin there. So it's a wonderful book. It's a journey of two brothers. And Justin, welcome to the show.
Well, good morning, Bart. Thank you. It's always a pleasure to be speaking with you, and you're everywhere. All those places that you've named, boy, you're all over. That's pretty impressive.
Well, it's really wonderful with Joe Maltado and Michelle Delrocher, who are the managers of UPRN, that they have linked all of this stuff together. I don't know how to get it all done. What I've been told is Joe even has a day job, and yet he has this huge metaphysical talk radio show that's, probably one of the biggest in the world. And I don't know. I guess he's never sleeps or something, because it's quite incredible that he's done this. And I feel very blessed to get to talk to very important people, or at least in my opinion, are important people, because they have something very special in the world. And I would just have to say, Justin James, you are one of those folks. And just to give a little bit of background before we start with the first question about Jesus, Yeshua and Christmas, what is your relationship with James the Just? And maybe a lot of people don't even know who James the Just is.
Thanks for the accolades, Bart. Appreciate that. James the Just is actually a historical figure. Many of the historians and philosophers of the time actually wrote about James the Just, so mentioned him. After the ascension of Yeshua, Jesus the Christ, as most people know him, the torch was handed over to James, his brother. Aramaic, our names were Yaakov. The derivation is Jacob, and then James, and then Jesus was Yeshua. And so Yeshua handed the torch to James, and James stayed in Jerusalem for the next 30-some years, providing leadership to the apostles who went out to different areas to preach the mission, the word, the way, and to just help support and anchor that love and light in that very chaotic area. And so James was the second born of Mary, the younger brother of Yeshua, and they grew up together. Prior to that incarnation, Yeshua had asked James in spirit form to come and help him during his mission. And there were many that came together at that time to help Yeshua with that mission. He wasn't alone, as many people try to say that he was. He was supported.
Yeah. The stories have grown and developed over the years.
Yes, indeed.
and for you, you've told me you're not channeling James the Just. You have a very different relationship. And I just, would you just share a little bit how that all is?
So I
It's
was
more,
James the Just at that time. Yes. So for those that believe in reincarnation, um, part of my individuation of Father, Mother, God, the Source was James at that time, and now I'm a different iteration, but we're have the same subtle energies. And this life, I like my anonymity because it's not about me; it's about the message, the mission, and the message.
mm,
So that's why we really don't need to know exactly who I am or see who I am. I have a buddy, Tavis, who's my front guy. He helps a lot, so I can keep my anonymity. Helps me with publishing and different concepts of teaching. So
indeed.
yeah, so the mission and the message is what is most important, and we are continuing it at this time, 2,000 years later. But we're at a very transitional time. Things appear very chaotic. There have been other times throughout Earth's history that things have been very chaotic, but this is galactically, universally, and at Earth time, it's a very transitional time that we are re-emphasizing the original message um, here at this time.
It's a big job. And I have met Justin James in person. He and I met in France. He was actually doing one of my tours, uh, and I would just like to vouch for when Justin Justin was kind of like, he wasn't always with the group. We'd all get together and we would do our circle work at times, and Justin would kind of meander in sometimes. He was kind of in his own course. He had his own autonomy, so to speak. But whenever he joined the power of the circle just grew tremendously. And so it was kind of funny. They were telling me, this one lady goes, "You better watch that Justin guy. He's he's really different." And then when you joined the circle, and I go, he's different in that his energy is completely original or different than anybody I have ever met. I can say that because I've actually met you, and uh, I'll just leave it at that. And so I know your source comes from something very special, and you've been walking with that for lifetimes and lifetimes, from what I
I have to just
understand.
sort of laugh when you talk about the energy, and I try to blend in, but yes, I do. I do carry
I
some
try,
energy with
I
me.
try to be normal.
Yeah, but I repeatedly hear from people, yeah, you're different. You're not normal. So, but I try to be. I try to be.
Yeah, yeah, you look like a regular, ordinary guy, and sweet and friendly, and somebody that would help you get on the bus or something. Um, you know, but at the same time, you're walking and you have a totally different. I don't say we're all into this together, but your mission is very intense because you really are helping this new age come into order, uh, and that's really wonderful. Now, I wanted to I'd ask you a question because I really pride myself on the titles of my show because I want to have a title that's intriguing and get people to listen. And being that it's Christmas time, uh, just wanted to ask you, what do you think Yeshua was, uh, if he was creating Christmas and making Christmas happen? What do you think his concept of Christmas would be?
Well, so I just want to say that after we've answered that question, I do want to piggyback on this concept of energy and how it relates to infusing the earth and the people. Okay, and we're going to
Uh,
sort of
I'll hold you to it.
and we're going to talk about that a little bit here. So actually, I'm not going to give you a hypothetical of what Yeshua would make. I'm going to let Yeshua speak, if that's okay with you.
That's okay with me.
Bart, greetings and love and light. This is Yeshua ben Joseph, also known to you as Jesus the Christ. And you're asking, what does Christmas mean to me? Or your specific question a few moments ago was, how would I make Christmas? Let me expand on that a little bit. That, as many people know, I wasn't born on December 25th. I was born in the spring equinox in March. But those that decided to make December 25th my birthday were looking at broader practices of the time. The solstice, the winter solstice is the 21st, the longest night of the year as we start to turn back into daylight. And so we're going from dark to light. And there were many celebrations, there are many celebrations around that concept. And there were many practices that were happening at that time. And so the Christian leadership brought in the concept of celebrating the birthday of the Christ child. And what does that mean to me? Am I opposed to it? Am I in agreement of it? The actual date of my birth, except for the energy that was brought in at the time, really doesn't matter. What is important is the concept that we're bringing light to the darkness, And when I was born, that large star that you saw not only marked where I was physically, but it was the energy coalescing to anchor in that strong love and light of the universal sacredness into the earth to help with its healing. So we are celebrating that moment in which this large energy of love was sent to earth and anchored there. And then as I walked through my mission and my experience, bringing that energy on a regular basis to the earth and to the plants and the beings around me, the human beings, that was so important. And even on the cross, instead of emanating suffering and pain, I tried my best to emanate love and compassion. Forgive them, for they know not what they do, right? So we're bringing in this energy all along about compassion, forgiveness, and love. And so the celebration of that on December 25th is fine with me, because I think it's a really important opportunity to think about these concepts. Think about what my mission was, what the message was, and to have an opportunity to reinvest in that message for yourselves. As we are kind and compassionate and forgiving to those around us, that helps spread that love and that light. I like to use the example, if you're walking in a grocery store and somebody scowls at you, you're going to probably not feel as good and maybe scowl back, and you just reiterate that energy. But if somebody smiles at you and you feel good and you smile at the next person and you interact with them in a more loving way and more kind way, then that spreads as well. And so that's what we're advocating, to spreading that kindness, that compassion, forgiveness, and love. And I'm honored that we can do that, at least on an annual basis, to get so many people to be in a loving and giving mood.
Indeed. And the word that you used that I really liked is making an imprint of light that we all can do. And all of the things that you did in interacting with people, that's what you seem to be impressing. And maybe that's what Christmas is supposed to impress or imprint upon us, is to remember we are of light.
Exactly. As the darkness is turning to more light, we're bringing in more light. And that is the focus of all of us. So I'm going to let James come back and talk, even because he wants to talk more about that spreading of that light and that energy.
Yes.
I thank you, Bart. Greetings and love.
It's my honor.
Yeah.
Back to Justin. And
yeah. Thanks, Jeshua. So he could say it better than I could, although I'm not familiar with, because we've had this discussion this morning and other times. So we're talking about energy and imprinting and seeding the earth. So many people get discouraged because they aren't in positions of leadership making big decisions like, what can I do? I'm just one person. What can I do? You're very important. Each person, each individuation is important, because as you bring in that love and light, compassionate energy, and you share it, it ripples out. You share it with the earth, and she can take it in and use it for healing for herself as well as other beings, all the plant and animal beings that live here. You share it with those around you. And again, just like that example I gave with the store, as you share that energy around you, it emanates out. And as you mentioned, Bart, you feel my energy when I walk into the group. That is the impact that we want to make. We want to share that compassionate, forgiving, loving energy with everything around us to help raise the vibration of not only yourself, but those around us, so we can continue to spread that out.
thank you. And it really brought up another question, because some of my teachers have always said we are all infinite. We all have this infinite being with us. Yet some people, you do not feel the infinite potential so much. So, but it's there. So what prevents those people from having that infinite light just glowing out of them?
Yeah, sort of the crux of everything, isn't that question?
I like to ask good questions.
Right. So we think of this realm in a dual manner, light and dark, but it's really non-dual. Even the darkest of dark comes from source, and there's light there. Even if it's infinitesimal and we can't see it with our eyes, there's always light there. Why are we not seeing the light? It's not that we're seeing dark, it's why are we not seeing the light? Because it has contracted. So the individuation that is not allowing light in has contracted, and they contract their light down quite a bit sometimes. And so the object is to decrease the contraction, allow the light in. If you don't allow the light in, then it won't be able to come in. And there are many factors that contribute to that contraction. We'll often designate sort of difference. So basically comes down to two major emotions for humans: fear and love. Fear is all those heavy emotions. If you think about shame and guilt and anger, there's some component of fear associated with that. And so when we have fear of any kind and we contract, we don't allow that light in, you see less of it. Less of it is able to emanate because less is coming in. So contracting and blocks, people karmically and presently can develop blocks for many different reasons. This is the emotional body. Emotional
Yes.
body is so integral to the physical and spiritual body here in this realm. That's why people are here as humans, to work with this emotional body.
So when you talk about the emotional body, just to clarify, it would be an energy field just right outside of our skin that would be all over our body. Is that correct?
it integrates with the physical body. It's not really
Yes.
separate, but it's the
Yes.
component of energy that feels the emotions, the human emotions.
Mm,
And there's a whole spectrum of reactivity. Some people just don't want to feel emotion at all because it's difficult, and so you block it off. But that creates blocks, as I just said. You block it off, you create blocks. And others are struggling with those heavy emotions, again, creating blocks. So the goal is to experience them and learn to work through them, to transmute them, first to compassion, and then forgiveness, and then love. And we say first compassion because if you can look at somebody where they're at struggling and have compassion for them, because at some time you've been in a similar situation, may not have been this lifetime, could have been another lifetime, but we've all experienced those human emotions at one
indeed.
time or another. So if you can have compassion for the individual that they're struggling at that time, it doesn't make what they're doing right, but you have compassion for their struggle. And in that way, you can have forgiveness, again, not advocating for what they're doing, but at recognizing with compassion the struggle and the place that they're stuck.
How wonderfully put. Because I always think about when you look at it that way and you look at another person, if you look at it with a curiosity and compassion for them, suddenly you're almost like a part of the solution because you expand your energy with their energy and you merge to something greater as opposed to going into a judgment or emotion to block all of that off. And it really is proof that we're all connected with these situations, which I think was a very important lesson for Yeshua, is when he would confront things. And you recommended a book for me to read, Barbara Brodsky's 47 Stories of Jesus That You've Probably Never Heard. Great book. Barbara Brodsky is her name. But Yeshua would basically, sometimes he would confront people, sometimes he would be passive. They would steal his clothes or his food or, the group's food, and you say, it's okay, more will come, no worries. Or if they were tormenting an animal, he might be right between them and just be there and say, you don't have to do this, or there's a better way than to torturing this animal. But there was always compassion and an opening for these people that were the perpetrators. He never made anybody bad or wrong. He was actually very curious about their pain and loved them for their pain, it seemed to be.
Yes, yeah, I'm glad you brought that book up. It's very helpful to read through that book and see the different scenarios, read and hear the different scenarios, and how they can apply to now with difficult individuals. And one of the scenarios is, there was a thief amongst the group, and he just talked with them after a couple of days. He let them continue with the group. The rest of the group was sort of like, why are you letting this thief continue? He stole our silver candlesticks and sold them off, and he did this and he did that. And finally, the person came to him and said, why are you letting me continue with the group? And he said, basically, to show you a different way. And he said, well, this is because this is all I've known. This individual saying, this is all I've known. I grew up in a community of thieves, and then I was labeled a thief, and so this is what I should be. And Yeshua gave him another option. No, you don't have to be the thief. You don't have to continue to live the life you have lived, and basically showing him a different way. And that allowed this person to change his choices.
And there was such a level of caring for that individual that was conveyed in that story as well. Almost like I've never been loved by somebody like that before. And then through that inspiration, the person made a different choice.
Exactly. It wasn't condemning. It was a conversation, and a discussion about what has been and what could be, and you have a choice in a very loving and compassionate way. Yes. So it
Yes.
makes all the difference, because if I come at you aggressively and condemning, what are you going to do? You're going to contract, right? And if I
Okay.
but if I come with you in a loving and compassionate way, you're going to be more open to listen. And you may not make different choices right away, but down the road, possibly. And
And,
that's the
and
whole point, choice by
exactly.
choice.
And knowing you, you never say that, well, I'm James the Just. We just said that for the radio. I said, and this is true, but in your experience, or my experience with you, is, that title was never presented to me or the group. I kind of had to pry it out of you, so to speak, because light doesn't need a title. It doesn't need a position or an authority or a role. It just is being, and it responds and reacts to its surroundings from the light. And it doesn't react from judgment or anger or other limiting emotions. It just sees the situation. And so when you're around somebody like that, that possibility for change happens. And wouldn't you say that that was part of Yeshua's mission? It was just to bring his presence around as many people as possible, because in some ways it's a person to person encounter. It's not so much that you can learn all of this through a book or something.
Absolutely. The mission was to not only bring a message, which you can speak about. There weren't much, people couldn't read and write very much back then, so they didn't have that. And they didn't have this fantastic internet that you are a part of now to reach thousands of people at once. Uh, but by being a role model, by bringing in that love and light energy and expanding that around him and interacting with people in a way that they could understand the love and compassion rather than just hearing about it. That was so important to be that role model and messenger.
Yes, indeed. Uh, it comes down to vibration. And for those of you listening on to the show, I suggest that you just tune into your own body and feel where places that it feels resistant or heavy or dense. And maybe there's thoughts connected to that going, oh, this guy is not the real deal, for example. It's kind of a judgment. And maybe be curious with that. But also request your body or request yourself to listen deeper. Maybe ask the question, well, what is the light here that's being presented on this show through this Justin guy? And see what happens, because it does open up in that way. The internet is no boundary for these messages to come across to you and open you. So we just put that invitation out there. Um, and I love this book. I'm going to show it once again. You can, oh gosh, I have problems. You can see Yaakov and Yeshua there. I never think of Israel having lots of trees and beauty, but a friend of mine, Schieffer Bloom, who was on the show a few weeks ago, was just telling me how beautiful Israel is. I always think of it as deserts, but this book has so much wisdom and so much stories with it. Um, and one of the real simple things that you were bringing up in this book um, was, yes, sure, what we call it, the truth. And he was bringing the truth. Um, and I just wondered if you could share a little bit about what that expression means.
The truth. There's just a simple message and very straightforward about compassion, forgiveness, and love. And that extended to equality of men and women, and respect for our environment. But it wasn't, so the truth being, like I said, that simple message, not complicated by dogma, not complicated by a lot of rules and regulations, because if you really think about it, if you're sincerely practicing compassion and forgiveness, do you need somebody to tell you what to do and what not to do? So the truth in that respect is just the simple message. They also called it the way, the truth, the way, the message of compassion, forgiveness, and love.
Wonderful. I'm going to put on the ticker here. There we go. And it's simple. And, you know, the more I read about history of that time, not only in Israel, but in Greece and Rome and various other places, there was such an inequality between men and women. They lived almost separate lives, and women were functional for men. They provided children. They cooked the foods, and everything was so well defined. And it could be very stifling if you broke out of that mold. And yet Jesus was saying, no, women are gifted. And he openly loved Mary Magdalene and thought of her as an equal, which in today's time that would say, oh, yeah, well, men and women are equal. But in that time, this was very extraordinary.
Absolutely. And caused a lot of controversy and disruption amongst the disciples and apostles. Part of the mission, we're going back to that role modeling, is it's one thing to speak about these concepts, but it's another to live them. And so when Yeshua's living in the day-to-day world of the Jewish and Gentile population at that time, just amongst the people traveling from town to town and traveling, all the way to Tibet and up to Glastonbury and eventually Scotland, amongst the people, it wasn't a philosophical message. It was a physical, emotional, present message of how to interact and how to live, and extended that to not only the women and men around him, but the hierarchies within communities. We have those that are like the lepers and the thieves and those that weren't well thought of, and those that are in leadership, addressing each as his own in an equal manner.
Almost, and we've talked about this, but I just want to reconfirm it. It's almost as if Yeshua was being present with, and I'm talking about physically present with them. So in that imprinting of light, they had a opportunity to change their whole karma for lifetimes to come, almost like it was creating a chain reaction. Am I getting that correctly?
Yes, that's part of the reason that Yeshua came at the time that he did. The earth energy was sort of spiraling more into darkness, and eye for an eye type of mentality, and vengeful and violence. And there wasn't a lot of compassion or forgiveness being taught. So he came in and they talked about anchoring that light and that love to share it, to stop that spiraling down. I mean, we still went through things like the Dark Ages and the Middle Ages, but that energy has persisted. And as the population has expanded, we have a larger percentage of people that are able to accept and utilize and expand with the light and love, because those concepts were delivered 2,000 years ago. Does that make some sense?
Yes, it does. In what would be your point of view with that? That was also planting a seed for this new age that is happening right now, the age of Aquarius coming up, because he was going into the age, uh, oh gosh, Pisces, I think. It was the Iron Age. It was the age of the masculine law,
Mm-hmm.
and it sure sounds very different from what the concepts of what Yeshua was teaching. Yet it was almost like he was planting a lot of seeds for a great change to happen, not only immediately, but hundreds and hundreds of years in the future.
Yes, we knew that this change wasn't going to come overnight. We understood that. And so, yes, planting those seeds and allowing that energy to percolate in those that were capable to bring that message of truth and the way forward. Many times, Gnostics, Essenes, some that are still sort of underground, uh, those folks were able to keep those concepts flowing forward to a time where we could have more accessibility to them.
Yes. And maybe also for the people to evolve with them over the years. Because a lot of people, the idea of that light is a very hard concept to grasp. And it may take spirits and souls hundreds of years to really get it, so to speak.
Yeah, and how do people get it? Well, sometimes they have to experience those what we call negative activities. They have to walk through the fear that they have. Uh, many people don't like change because even if they're not happy where they're at, they know what it is, and they can
Yeah.
make their way through it. So that's an evolving process. And we knew that it would have to evolve, and people might have to experience those things that make them really uncomfortable in a negative way in order to choose a more positive way.
Indeed. It's been a process, as they say.
It is still a process, yes.
To me, that gives me hope, and such. Um, and also in about 2 weeks, we're going to have Karina Chrysler come on the show and give astrological predictions of 2024 and really look into that future of how all of this working. She's one of the most brilliant astrologers. And I always really feel like they probably knew about this stuff at that time. Now, one of the things in your book that I really love, and this is the book Time to Speaks, and you can buy this on various bookstores, um, and have it sent right to your home. That's what I did when I first met James. He says, check this book out. And, because he was talking about joining my tour, and I'm going, okay, I'll check this book out. He didn't tell me that he wrote it, just kind of said, yeah, check this book out. And, I'm always curious. So I bought it and I was liking it. And then I really never really got it for a while that it was his book. So that's all kind of funny, the trickster in him. But one of the things in the book, it was an Essene concept about the healing from the source of a child's divine energy, that the children can learn how to be great healers, and not really know exactly what they were doing as healers, but they healed anyway. And wondered if there's any advice or suggestions how we could learn from that, being us adults.
So let me just correct that a little bit, Bart,
Thank
in
you.
that the healing is available to everyone. But as adults, we have certain preconceptions and limitations, right? And so the Essenes taught the children how to heal as just part of their everyday learning experience. So they grew up knowing that these were possibilities and to not have the limitations of, oh, we can't do that, it's not possible. And so, the innocence of children, the lack of, how can we put this, contraction that, oh, I can't do that, because they don't know better. So, if they're taught you can do this, then they just think, I can do this. And so they were taught, from a very young age, how to heal themselves. If they fell and scraped their knee, they'd come to an adult, and the adult would help walk them through how to use their energy for healing. And there was more active teaching. They would, use a thorn to actively, purposely prick a finger and teach them how to heal that. So it was a spectrum of learning from early age up through adulthood. And, some people, like every other skill, are better at it than others. And so you would go to, the healer, but they would work with you, and it wasn't just being acted upon. You weren't being passively healed by the healer. It was a joint effort with whatever skill and energy you had and the skill and energy of the healer. So it is quite beautiful, really. And Tavis teaches these concepts to many groups, and he's actually very fortunate that the medical school he works with, they're allowing him to work with some of the residents to teach these concepts also.
Wow, that's wonderful. It's just that, once again, that innate infinite ability and that light of Yeshua talking about coming out, because it can change so much in our lives. It's
Oh,
always there.
it's always there. You just have to allow it and learn how to utilize it. So yeah, great. A lot of these miraculous cures that you hear about from people, it's because they opened up and they resolved their blocks, their emotional barriers, and concepts of limitations and concepts of self-degradation, whatever was blocking them. They were able to work through those and let those go, and let that beautiful high energy come in and help them heal.
Indeed. And it has so many different paths in this world to show up, whether that be physical healing, but also emotional healing. Um, uh, it's just the applications are endless. And there's so many great things about this book, Time to Speak. And one of them, I just love this quote: Jesus changed every cell so it could be a cell of light. Yet it held density so he could function as a human. Could you interpret that a little bit for us about what that is, or what that's like, or maybe how we can learn how to do that?
Well, he was able to release any blocks that he had acquired while here. He didn't have any coming in. But, living in a human body, in a human world, you come up against challenges. And so he was able to meet those challenges and work through them so that he didn't hang on to blocks, and allows that light from Source, Father, Mother, God, the infinite universe, to come in, and it just infused his whole body. And the challenge can actually be when all those cells are infusing with that love and light, raising the vibration, and sometimes the vibration shifts the physical form. I like to use the analogy of water. At a lower vibration, it's ice. Higher vibration, it's water. Higher yet, steam, and then gas. And that they all change phase dependent upon the vibration of the molecules. And so this human body is at a certain vibration and composed of carbon elements from the earth, and it's joined by the spiritual energy. And so when you light up all those cells, potentially they can raise to a vibration where they're no longer physical. And that's where we see with his ascension. He was able to raise past that physical limitation of that lower, I don't want to say lower vibration, but vibration that was less than what he achieved afterwards.
So when he was pulling from realities of just the highest realms and bringing that into his body. Am I getting that right? I mean, we had somebody on the show, Peter Craig, and he does dowsing into those realms. And, he was saying, well, it's a reality beyond the God reality, but there's just more and more, or there's higher and higher dimensional levels up there, and that we have access to. And he always would say Yeshua could access those realms.
Well, universal energy is what creates life in all forms. And some of those we see with our physical eyes, and some of them we don't. Some people can see past the physical 3D realm. Those that see spirit and ghosts and other things. And in those energies in those other dimensions, yes, he could harness those and learn to. That's part of his training when he worked with the Druids and the monks in Tibet and India, working with all these different masters, allowing him to free up that emotional body and make changes in the physical body. And eventually, when he was ready and it was timely, to change that 3D physical body to higher vibration.
So if you are in Austin, Texas, like I am, some regular guy, as if, anyway, I laugh at that regular guy, normal guy. Ha, ha, ha. Any advice on how we can develop in that? Practices, tools, etc.
Well, I want to bring in another concept here is of physical body, human body. We make a choice to be here because there's many reasons. Some are here simply in service. Others are here to learn things that they wanted to learn. And it's being in the human body is always challenging. Human experience is always challenging. And so many people are like to escape the physical body. And escaping the physical body and going into spirit form. So I want to caution in that we're each here in the human experience for a reason, and to embrace that. And even if you don't know specifically what your plan was, embrace the challenge and embrace the experience to optimize it, to again, work towards that compassion, forgiveness, and love. And as you do that, you're going to be infusing all those cells with that higher energy. You're going to be increasing your vibration. And if you truly chose to step aside from the physical body for even temporarily, like some people bilocate and do different things, you can do that, working with some people that are considered masters or more experienced. You always want to do that with caution because you don't want to hurt yourself.
So I want to ask the question with the forgiveness, love. When you give that to other people, and you have this type of communion, so to speak, with that other person, does that multiply or make your own selves lighter when you practice and have that communion with another?
Absolutely. Every time you raise your vibration, even a little bit, is beneficial to your spirit, emotional, and physical body. And the more time you spend in that, the lighter and brighter your vibration. And when you connect with others, it's exponential. What comes out of that is exponential. It's not just additive. So when we talk about being in a group, one, and then you add another one, the energy that is expressed is exponential and not just additive. And so when you get many individuals contributing to that positive vibration, you get an even larger output of that compassion and love and raising that vibration. And you've probably experienced, and they've done studies about prayer groups, people coming together to pray for others, and that's a really high energy activity. And so I know there are individuals that participate in regular group meetings for Gaia or for other individuals that are sick, or even in these war situations. It's all beneficial.
Indeed. We're coming to the end of the show, and I just wanted to see if you could give one final message to everybody. Uh, any last words of wisdom? But before you do that, I would like to say this is the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network on 107.7 and 105.3. And you can catch us on the internet at the UPRN website, as well as on Roku, Spreaker, YouTube, and Facebook. That was the one I was forgetting. And my name is Bart Sharp, and this is Becoming Quantum Conscious. And next week on December 27th, I will have Fracca Frisky Future, or Fracca Future, coming on this show. And we're going to do a joint show about letting go of 2023. And Fracca was on the show in 23, and we had a rousing time. Always have a rousing time with Fracca, and why I say Fracca Frisky Future, because it's going to be frisky, folks, and letting go of 2023 on that night or that day at Wednesday at 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. And so I hope you can make it. And so, Justin, what parting words do you have to share with everyone?
Well, I just wanted to comment. It sounds like that frisky time is going to be pretty exciting. That's a great term, frisky, very energetic. So, sort of the bottom line is that every human is capable of raising their vibration. And that was one of the major points of Jeshua coming in physical form, is to be in human form, be that individual who is experiencing human challenges, to show that it is possible. And people will say, oh, because it was Jesus, it's Jeshua, I can't do that. I'm not capable. Yes, you are. By each choice you make. And if you make a choice that's not optimal, you can always make another choice that is more positive. And so I just really want to impart that every one of us, each and every one of us, is capable of making choice by choice a difference in our vibration and the world around us.
That's a wonderful thought. It seems to be the theme of this show is, as they say, as the Doobie Brothers said, taking it to the streets. And so we'll end it at that. And thank you so much for being on the show, Justin.
Thank you, Bart. I really appreciate it. And just a plug for Bart's tours. It was great. And through the Mary Magdalene, Essene, Cathar area, he did a wonderful job. And if you ever get an opportunity to tour with Bart, I would encourage you to do so.
Well, thank you. And I encourage you to check out this book, Time to Speak by Justin James. And hope to see you in France. That'll probably be the next time I see you, my friend.
Yep, that'll be good. Take care,
Okay.
Bart.
All right. Bye-bye, everybody.